Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Today we have a question from our friend Nay Rayan, who says, I have a serious question. I hope I have a serious answer for you. He or she, I don't know, says, why are you such a strong father figure? Am I? Interesting. Usually MMA coaches or fighters look like they could be your friend if you're part of the sport, but you have an aura that has such a strong father figure. By aura, I mean the way you approach situations, the way you speak about certain things, and if you have your shirt on, you could be a corporate worker. Well, I got a shirt with a collar on today, so there you go. Well, I hope it's not because of your entire life being marked with struggles, pain, disappointment, and the search for God. A strong father figure. That's a puzzling question. Well, I am an actual father. I have 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 7-year-old. So I am a literal father to them, and I hope I'm a strong father figure to my daughters. But as far as what I'm presenting to you guys online, I don't know, man. Maybe it's the beard, maybe it's the deep voice, maybe it's the bald head. But I'm going to tell you something. I didn't have a father figure in my life growing up. I did not. My dad left when I was small. I was raised by my mother. There were 7 children and a single mom in the house, and absent father. I would see my father from time to time. He would come to visit once every couple of months for an afternoon, and then leave. And that was about it. So it wasn't so much a father-son relationship. It was like, this guy, this friendly guy who would come over and hang out for a while, then go. I have often heard people say or express value in positive role models. Like, I'm so thankful that I've had this positive role model in my life. And I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to express gratitude for not having that positive role model in my life. Because contrast is an extremely valuable teacher if we allow it to be. I think I was about 12 years old. And there was this older gentleman at church who approached me, and he was kind of concerned because he knew that I was growing up without a father, and he said, essentially, young man, how do you feel about this? He was trying to help. How do you feel about not having a dad, basically? And I didn't think about it at all, because it was just my situation in life. It was just how I grew up. It was just how it always was. It happened. My dad left when I was so small. It wasn't like, oh no, my dad's leaving. It was like, I was too young to recognize what was going on. I was 2. And I didn't think about it until age 12, where this older gentleman at my church asked me, like, he was expressing condolences, basically. I'm so sorry for your lot in life, essentially. And I was like, well, what? Why? What's wrong with it? What's wrong with my life? And I started getting pity from certain people out there. Pity I didn't want, pity I didn't need. But I started getting used to this pity. And this pity started turning into anger, welling up inside of me like, yeah, I got robbed. Oh, I should have had a dad. Oh, my dad's a jerk for leaving. Oh, boo him. Poor me. That's a terrible attitude to have. That's a dangerous attitude to have. That is an attitude that will hold you back and chain you and bind you and hold you captive in your life. That's an attitude you need to throw in the garbage right away. Because it's not your father who determines how far you go in life. It is not your father who determines who you are in life. It is not somebody else's onus. I was about to say responsibility or obligation. Parents do have responsibilities and obligations to their children, but it is not the onus of somebody else to ensure that you are happy. You know who holds the key to that? You do. By the choices that you make. So I learned a lot from my father, even though he wasn't there the overwhelming majority of the time. And I'm grateful for my father, even though he wasn't there the overwhelming majority of the time. Even though he didn't play catch with me in the park or anything like that. Even though he never showed up to my baseball games when I was a little kid. This kind of sounds like a sad sob story when I say it like that. Man, when I talk about these things to my wife who grew up with a father, she looks at me with pity in her eyes, and I'm like, that's not why I'm telling this story. I don't want or need the pity. And I'll tell you why, because I have forgiven already, and we don't need to go there again. Contrast is an incredibly valuable teacher. So I learned how to be a father by not having one. So when I interact with my children, when I teach my children, I make it a point to teach them the things that I remember would have been most useful for me. I remember the things that I remember needing, but not having. Not giving them the fish, teaching them to fish. When you simply give the child what they want, you're spoiling them. Spoiling them. When you can teach the child, the power of their agency, on the other hand, that is tremendously powerful. There's so many parallels to martial arts and so many parallels in martial arts to this. As a coach, I make it a point to teach my students to be free agents, to not need the coach anymore. This is especially true when it comes to fitness training. So from time to time I'll have people come to me for fitness training because they see the fighters I train, these guys are really in shape, and so they want to be like that. They're like, hey, can you teach me how to be physically fit? I don't want to get in a cage or anything. And I'm like, all right, sure. And some of them have this erroneous idea that if all they do is show up a few times a week for this hour-long personal training session, then they'll be good. And if you have the time and the money and the patience to go through that process of having someone force feed it to you, I guess you might experience some changes on the outside, but you won't experience any changes on the inside, which is what you need. So my goal, my imperative, is to teach them to teach themselves, to teach them to not need me anymore. To teach them to want to do the right things, to move the right way, to eat the right way, to sleep the right way, to think for themselves, which is the right way. To get them to want to teach themselves to become the expert on themselves and their own body and what that body needs to be healthy and fit and strong. And that's the same goal I have with my children, Because we have our children for a while and then they leave and they move on into the big wide world. I remember at age 17 when I left home. I left home at age 17. I finished high school earlier than most Americans do. And I went to college, and I remember seeing this look of concern on my mother's face, of course, because I was leaving home for the first time to be on my own, to live on my own. And she had this look like, I hope I taught him well enough to fend for himself and not die. Good luck out there. As if you release a wild human into the wild, or I should say a domesticated human into the wild, without being prepared for that situation, without knowing how to fight the battles that life will throw at you and deal with the unfairness that life throws at you, and stand back up when life pulls the rug out from under your feet, as it so often does, then you've failed as a parent or a coach or a father figure or whatever you want to call yourself. I'm not your dad, guys, but if what you're getting out of these interactions and these videos is a positive thing, awesome. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.